In 1958, couples in long-distance relationships wrote 3-page letters once a week. Today, they send 100 texts a day that say nothing. How did we get more connected, but less intimate? When America was simpler, long-distance relationships survived through letters. Handwritten pages that took an hour to compose, mailed with stamps, delivered days later. Each letter was treasured, read multiple times, kept in boxes forever. The separation was hard, but the letters built intimacy, deep knowledge, understanding of thoughts, dreams, character. The distance forced quality communication. Today, couples text constantly, brief messages throughout the day, instant delivery, but the constant stream creates shallow connection. Interrupted conversations, surface-level exchanges, more words, less meaning. It's 1958. Wednesday evening in October. A young man sits at the desk in his small apartment in Detroit, Michigan, 24 years old. Moved here 4 months ago for a job at the Ford plant. Good opportunity, better wages than back home. But it meant leaving behind the girl he'd been courting for 8 months. Before he left, they had a serious conversation. They cared about each other. The relationship was heading toward a marriage, but the distance, 200 miles from his hometown in Ohio to Detroit, was significant. No quick visits, no casual drop-ins. They made a promise. They would write letters. Every week without fail, they would keep the relationship alive through correspondence until he'd saved enough money and established himself enough to return and propose properly. That was 4 months ago. Since then, he's written 18 letters. She's written 18 back. They haven't seen each other once. 200 miles might as well be 2,000 in 1958 for a young working man without spare money for train tickets or a reliable car. Tonight is Wednesday, his designated letter-writing night. Every Wednesday evening after work, after dinner, he sits down to write. It's become a ritual, something he looks forward to all week. He pulls out his writing supplies, a pad of lined paper purchased at the drugstore, a fountain pen, the nice one his father gave him when he graduated high school, a bottle of blue ink, an envelope, and a 3-cent stamp. He begins writing, the date at the top, October 15th, 1958, then her name. The first paragraph tells about his week, the work at the plant, long hours but good pay. He's learning the assembly line, making $1.85 per hour now, better than the $1.40 he made at the factory back home. His supervisor mentioned a possible promotion in 6 months. If that happens, his wage would increase to $2.10 per hour. He writes about the apartment. Small but clean, just one room with a kitchenette. The landlady is strict about noise and visitors, but fair about rent. He's been saving money, already has $280 in the bank. His goal is $500 before he returns to ask her father for permission to marry. At his current pace, that will take another 4 months. Second paragraph shifts to deeper thoughts. He writes about missing her. Not just generic missing, specific things, missing their Saturday evening walks, missing the way she laughs at his jokes, missing sitting on her parents' porch talking until her father flicks the porch light to signal curfew. He writes about his dreams for their future, the kind of home he wants to provide. Small at first, but comfortable. A place where she can make curtains and plant flowers. Eventually children, 2 or 3 if God blesses them. He wants to be the kind of husband his father was to his mother. Steady, reliable, a good provider. Third paragraph asks questions. How is her family? Is her younger sister still struggling with algebra? He'd been helping her before he left. How is her job at the insurance company? Did her boss approve the raise she requested? How are Sunday dinners with her family? Does she still help her mother with the cooking? The letter fills 3 pages, front and back of each sheet. His handwriting is careful, neat. He takes his time. The whole process takes just over an hour. But what happens next reveals something about communication that's been completely lost today. He signs the letter with affection, folds the 3 sheets carefully, slides them into the envelope, writes her address on the front, her parents' home address in Ohio. his return address in the upper left corner, affixes the 3-cent stamp. Tomorrow morning he'll drop it in the mailbox on his way to work. The letter will travel 200 miles. Will arrive at her parents' home on Friday or Saturday, 2 or 3 days from now. He knows the timeline because they've been doing this for 4 months. He writes Wednesday evening. She receives it Friday or Saturday. She writes her response Sunday evening, her designated letter writing day. He receives her letter Tuesday or Wednesday, then the cycle repeats. This means their letters cross in the mail. When he writes on Wednesday, he hasn't yet received her response to his previous letter. She's responding to something he wrote 2 weeks ago. The conversation is layered, delayed, requiring patience and memory. But this delay creates something valuable. Each letter is complete, self-contained, not reactive. He can't dash off a quick response to something she said yesterday. He must think carefully about what to share, how to express himself, what questions to ask. The separation forces him to organize his thoughts, to write clearly, to communicate intentionally. He can't rely on tone of voice or facial expressions or immediate back and forth to clarify meaning. The words must stand alone. He rereads his letters before sending them. Sometimes writes a draft first, then copies it more neatly. The effort shows respect, shows that her time reading his words is valuable, so he makes the words worth reading. On Saturday morning, her letter arrives. He recognizes her handwriting on the envelope immediately. His heart jumps. He doesn't open it right away. Waits until he's home from work, has eaten dinner, can sit down and give it his full attention. He opens the envelope carefully, unfolds 3 pages of her neat, flowing handwriting, begins reading slowly, savoring every word. She writes about her week. Work at the insurance company, her sister's algebra grade improved, Sunday dinner with her family, her mother made pot roast, asked about him, sent her regards. She writes about missing him, specific things, missing his presence at church services. She sits in the same pew, but it feels empty without him beside her. She writes about her hopes, about their future together, about wanting to be a good wife. She mentions she's been learning new recipes, practicing cooking skills her mother is teaching her. She wants to be ready to manage a household when they marry. She asks about his life in Detroit. Is he eating properly? Is he warm enough? October nights are getting cold. Is he attending church services? She worries about him being alone in a big city. The letter is thoughtful, intimate, reveals her character, her values, her personality. 3 pages that took her an hour to write that he'll read multiple times over the next week. He keeps all her letters in a shoebox under his bed. 18 letters now. He rereads them sometimes, especially on lonely evenings. The letters are his connection to her, to home, to the future they're building. But this letter-writing courtship created something that modern instant communication can never replicate. The letters built deep knowledge. Over 4 months, 18 letters each direction, they shared more real substance than many modern couples share in years of texting. He knew her thoughts. Not just surface facts about her day, but her actual thinking. How she processed experiences, what she valued, what worried her, what made her happy. The letters revealed her mind, her heart, her character. She knew him the same way. His letters showed his values, his goals, his temperament, how he handled challenges, how he thought about the future, whether he was thoughtful, considerate, mature. The letters were a window into who he really was. The physical letters mattered. The effort of writing by hand, the care taken with penmanship, the time invested, all of it communicated value. Each letter said, "You are important enough for me to spend an hour carefully crafting words just for you." The delay created anticipation. Waiting days for a letter built excitement. When her letter arrived, it was an event. A highlight of the week, not just another notification in a stream of constant messages, but a treasured communication. The permanence mattered too. These letters could be kept, reread. Years later, decades later, they could pull out the box of letters and remember their courtship, the actual words preserved. handwriting fading but readable, a tangible archive of their relationship's beginning. The letters also created accountability. Writing took effort. You couldn't fire off thoughtless messages. Every word was considered because every word was permanent. This forced better communication, clearer thinking, more honesty, less reactivity. The separation, though difficult, served a purpose. It tested the relationship, proved whether the connection was based on genuine compatibility or just physical attraction and convenience. If they could maintain intimacy through letters, through words and thoughts alone, the relationship had substance. By the time he saved his $500 and returned to Ohio 8 months after leaving, they knew each other deeply. More deeply than many couples who'd spent the same time period together in person. The letters had forced them to communicate in ways face-to-face interaction often doesn't require. He proposed. She accepted. They married 3 months later. On their wedding day, she gave him a gift, all 18 of his letters tied with a ribbon. He gave her the same, all 18 of her letters. They kept them for the rest of their lives. But open any modern long-distance relationship today and you'd see something that would horrify anyone from 1958. Fast forward 68 years, 2026. Same scenario, young couple separated by distance, but everything about how they communicate has changed completely. A young woman, 26, sits in her apartment in Austin, Texas. Her boyfriend lives in Seattle, Washington. They've been together for 14 months. For the past 4 months, he's been in Seattle for a work assignment, 1,800 miles away. They're texting right now. It's Wednesday evening, 7:30 p.m. her time. She types, "What are you up to?" His response arrives 12 seconds later. "Just got home from work, exhausted." She types, "Same, today was crazy." Him, "Yeah?" Her, "My boss was in a mood, so annoying." Him, "That sucks." Her, "Yeah. What are you doing tonight?" Him, "Probably just watch TV. You?" Her, "Same, I guess." Him, "Cool." Her, "Yeah." The conversation dies. 5 minutes pass. Neither sends another message. This pattern repeats throughout the day. Brief exchanges, fragmented conversations, no depth, no substance, just maintenance communication, touching base, confirming the other person still exists. This has been their reality for 4 months. Constant texting, dozens of messages daily, but none of the messages say anything real. They're just filling space, maintaining contact without achieving connection. She scrolls back through their text history. Yesterday, 43 messages exchanged. The day before, 37. Last week, 281 total. But if someone asked her what they talked about, she couldn't say. Nothing memorable, nothing substantial. Just, "What's up?" and "How was your day?" and "Bored" and "Same." They also FaceTime twice a week. Tuesday and Saturday evenings, 30-minute calls. But even those are shallow. They sit on their respective couches, staring at screens, running out of things to say. Often they just watch TV together, meaning they're both watching the same show on Netflix, phones propped up, mostly silent except for occasional comments about what's happening on screen. The physical distance is harder than it would have been in 1958, ironically, because the constant contact creates expectation. He's supposed to text back quickly. She's supposed to be available. If either doesn't respond within an hour, the other feels anxious, worried, wondering what's wrong. But the constant contact doesn't create intimacy, it creates anxiety, the need to be perpetually available, the feeling of obligation rather than anticipation. She doesn't know his thoughts. Not really. She knows the surface facts of his days, where he went, what he ate, that work was busy or boring, but his actual thinking, his hopes, fears, dreams, worries, she has no idea. They never discuss anything that deep. He doesn't know her either, knows the surface, knows she's frustrated with her boss, that she watched a new show, that she went to brunch with friends, but her actual inner life, her values, her goals, her character, he couldn't describe any of that with specificity. But here's what makes modern long-distance relationships even more hollow than just shallow texting. The relationship is eroding, slowly, invisibly, but definitely. The constant texting creates the illusion of closeness. They're in touch all day, every day. That should create connection, right? But it doesn't. The constant stream of meaningless messages creates the opposite, a sense that they're going through the motions without actually connecting. She feels lonely, alone in her apartment, texting with someone 1,800 miles away, but feeling more isolated than if she'd written a thoughtful letter once a week and spent the rest of the week focused on her own life. The texting is also a burden. She feels obligated to respond. Can't ignore his messages, he'll worry or feel rejected, but she often has nothing meaningful to say. So she sends generic responses, emojis. Lol. Yeah. Filling the space without filling the relationship, he feels the same. Texts because he should, because that's what couples do now. But the messages are empty. He's not sharing his real thoughts, not revealing his actual self, just maintaining contact. They're both going through the motions, playing the role of long-distance couple, but the substance is missing. And here's the terrible irony. If they'd been forced to write letters like couples did in 1958, the relationship would be either much stronger or already ended. Stronger because the effort of letter writing would force real communication. He'd have to think about what to share, how to express himself, what really matters. She'd have to do the same. The letters would reveal whether they're actually compatible, whether they think deeply, whether they value each other enough to invest effort, or already ended because the lack of constant contact would have revealed the relationship's emptiness sooner. Without the texting crutch, the ability to maintain illusion of closeness through constant shallow messages, they would have faced the reality. They don't have much to say to each other. The constant texting props up a relationship that may not have substance, lets them avoid facing whether this is real. She sometimes thinks about this, wonders if they're actually close or just addicted to the comfort of constant contact. Wonders what would happen if they had to write letters. Would they have anything to say? She doesn't bring this up, doesn't know how, so she keeps texting. What's up? Not much. Same. Day after day, building nothing, and the absence of physical letters creates a loss that most people don't even realize. In 1958, those 18 letters were kept forever, tied with ribbon, stored in a box. Decades later, the couple could reread them and remember their courtship. The actual words preserved, the evidence of who they were, how they thought, what they valued at that moment in their lives. In 2026, the text messages disappear. Not physically. They're technically stored in cloud servers somewhere, but practically they're gone. No one rereads text conversations from 4 months ago. They scroll too fast. There are too many. The conversations blur together into undifferentiated mass. If the young woman tried to find a meaningful exchange from early in the separation, she couldn't. She'd have to scroll through thousands of messages. What's up? Bored? Lol? Same. Nothing worth preserving. Nothing worth remembering. The relationship leaves no archive. If they marry, they won't have love letters to tie with ribbon, won't have thoughtful correspondence to show their children, won't have evidence of the effort they made to maintain connection across distance. They'll have text logs. Meaningless exchanges quickly forgotten. No artifacts of their courtship. No physical reminder of the communication that supposedly sustained them through separation. This matters more than people realize. The physical letters in 1958 weren't just communication. They were commitment made tangible, evidence of effort, proof that someone cared enough to sit down, think carefully, write thoughtfully, send intentionally. Text messages prove nothing except that someone had a phone and 30 seconds between other activities. The young woman has no letters to reread when she's lonely, no thoughtful words to return to. Just an endless scroll of what's up and not much. It provides no comfort, no connection, just reminds her how shallow their communication has become. In 1958, the young man rereading his girlfriend's letters felt closer to her despite the distance. The words bridged the gap. In 2026, the young woman scrolling through text messages feels more alone despite the constant contact. But the deepest problem with modern communication isn't even the shallowness. It's what constant texting prevents from developing. In 1958, the week between letters created space. Space for living, space for thinking, space for becoming someone with something to share. The young man didn't text his girlfriend constantly. He lived his life, worked, thought, experienced. Then, once a week, he reflected on the experience and shared it in letter form. The delay between communication forced him to process life rather than just narrate it. She did the same. Lived her week, had experiences, developed thoughts, then sat down Sunday evening to organize those thoughts into coherent letter form. The act of writing forced clarity, forced her to understand her own experiences before sharing them. In 2026, there's no space. The constant texting narrates life in real time. At work, getting coffee, boss is annoying, going home, watching TV. A play-by-play of mundane activities without any processing or reflection. This prevents depth. When you're constantly reporting your life as it happens, you never stop to understand what it means. Never develop perspective. Never process experiences into insights. The young woman texts her boyfriend as things happen. Doesn't sit down later to reflect on her day and identify what mattered, what was meaningful, what she learned. Just streams consciousness throughout the day. This creates shallow communication because it's unreflected communication. She's sharing raw experience without understanding. He's doing the same. Neither is developing the kind of deep self-knowledge that comes from reflection. The weekly letter writing in 1958 forced reflection. Forced the question, what from this week is worth sharing? What matters? What did I think and feel about my experiences? The act of writing the letter was an act of self-examination. Modern constant texting eliminates that. No self-examination, no reflection, just constant streaming of unprocessed experience. This means the young man in 1958 became more self-aware through the letter-writing process, learned to articulate his thoughts, developed clarity about his values, goals, character. The courtship through letters was also a process of self-discovery. The young woman in 2026 isn't developing that. She's just reporting activities, never stopping to understand herself. The constant texting actually prevents the kind of reflection that builds self-knowledge. And without self-knowledge, neither partner knows themselves well enough to know if they're compatible. They're just two people maintaining contact, going through motions, never deepening. But the cruelest irony of all is how the relationship ends. In 1958, after 8 months of letter writing, the young man returned to Ohio. He'd saved his money, established himself, proven his commitment through 18 letters. He proposed, she accepted. The letters had sustained them through the distance and proved the relationship had substance. In 2026, after 4 months of constant texting, the relationship dies. Not dramatically, just fades. The texts become less frequent, the FaceTime calls get canceled, the maintenance communication that was sustaining the illusion of closeness stops being maintained. She initiates the breakup conversation via text, can't even do it over the phone, just sends a message. I think we should talk about us. He responds, yeah, I've been thinking the same. They agree the distance is too hard, that they've grown apart. Neither admits the real truth. They were never that close to begin with. The constant texting created the illusion of closeness without the substance. They break up, delete each other's numbers, unfriend on social media, move on. She feels relief more than sadness, realizes she felt obligated to maintain the constant contact more than she actually wanted to. The relationship was a burden she's glad to shed. Within 3 weeks, she's swiping on dating apps again, matching with new faces, starting shallow text conversations with new strangers. The pattern repeats. Years later, she won't remember much about that relationship, won't remember the thousands of meaningless texts, won't have any artifacts to remind her. Just a vague memory of 4 months spent texting someone she never really knew. The couple in 1958 kept those 18 letters their entire marriage. 50 years later, they could reread them and remember exactly how their love began. The words preserved, the effort documented, the foundation visible. The woman in 2026 has nothing. Just digital detritus quickly forgotten, thousands of words that meant nothing and left no trace. Was 1958 perfect? No. Letters took days to arrive. Emergencies couldn't be communicated quickly. The delay sometimes created unnecessary worry. If someone got sick or hurt, their partner wouldn't know for days. Does 2026 have advantages? Yes. Instant communication allows quick problem solving. Video calls let couples see each other's faces. The ability to stay in constant touch provides reassurance, but something essential was lost. Depth, reflection, effort, permanence. The understanding that meaningful communication takes time and thought. We gained instant access. We lost thoughtful connection. We gained constant contact. We lost intimate knowledge. The letters took longer but built more. The texts arrive instantly but communicate less. When America was simpler, long-distance couples wrote 3-page letters once a week. Thoughtful, intimate, permanent. Letters that built deep knowledge across distance. Today, couples send 100 texts a day. What's up? Bored? LOL. Instant messages that create shallow connection despite constant contact. We gained instant communication. We lost intimate knowledge. If you maintained a relationship through letters, share your story in the comments. Do you still have the letters? What did they mean to you? Like this video and subscribe to When America Was Simpler. When America was simpler, words took time, and that time created intimacy.